6:08, we're calling this meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can have the floor, Vic.
All right, thanks. Welcome back, everybody. Hope everybody had a good few days. So at this point, hopefully you've all have had an opportunity to review the budget. And what I'll do is I'll kind of do an opening paragraph or two, a little preamble, and then we'll open it up to any and all questions or thoughts or concerns that anybody might have with the proposed FY25 budget. If we get through the questions and you all, as a budget committee and as the council, are ready to vote out the budget, we are prepared to entertain motions to do that tonight. And so my preamble would go like this. As we have presented the FY25 budget, I think it's quite remarkable, honestly, and yes, I am a salesman, but I do think straight up, it's very remarkable that the proposed FY25 budget has 6 line items, 6 budget lines that are less than the current budget. And we have an additional 4 that are the same, and a few skew higher. And as I said to you with the capital improvement plan presentation a few weeks ago, and as I said to you at our opening meeting on February 12th, that this story of FY25 budget is a story really of taking care of the capital budget. In the current year that we're in, we had the availability to use $380,000 of surplus to help fund the capital budget. In FY25, that $380,000 goes down to $178,000. And so the town is left with the following riddle to solve, which is if you first entertain the concept that you do want to have a capital budget, and if you buy at all into the concept of what I've been trying to sell, which is try to fund our purchases as we need them as we go, instead of acquiring debt on those purchases, then we need to do proper planning. And the proposal that I have set in front of you for FY25 is, it calls for $505,000 of capital spending, which is $49,000 less than the current year. I would love for it to be $49,000 higher, but we really felt that we needed to help to mitigate the damage of going from 380 down to 178. And that 505 will fund the needed items for FY25 that I reviewed with you all a few weeks ago with the capital improvement plan. And so, and even factoring in that, if you take a look at total expenditures are still down 0.4%, factoring in everything. Hey, Sonny. And so I hope that you all agree that we really have tried to present a reasonable budget for your consideration, and a budget that isn't out to lunch in terms of spending, but is there in terms of what are needed to cover our needed estimated expenses and what we should be doing for a capital improvement plan. So I hope that you all vote out the budget, but I'll be more than happy, and Lisa will be more than happy to entertain any and all questions, thoughts, or concerns. Questions, thoughts, concerns?
Good evening. I do have concerns. I have concerns for those people within this community that own buildings, own structures, have parts to do with this community on fixed budgets and have no opportunity to get out of it. Much more expensive for them to go and live somewhere else than it is to live in their own home. And it's always a concern when we have budgets within our community that are going up over the last 3 years by 40 to 60%. And those really concern me. So,
I don't know what you're referring
you
to.
know, we have our police department that was 200,000 and some change years ago, and it's approaching $550,000 this year.
So I can give you again, at the end of the day, as I say to the council,
Yep.
and I say again to all of you tonight, this is your town. You guys decide. My job and role and responsibility in this is to present a reasoned, defendable budget. If you want to have a town, you're going to have expenses. You want your roads plowed, you gotta pay the piper. You want policing, you got to pay the piper. When I walked through the door, close to 2.5 years ago, you had a police staff of one very tired police chief. And I quickly came to the council and asked the
Well,
council.
Vic, not to interrupt you, but that's one more than Poland, one more than Minot. You know,
Well-
they have sheriffs, so, you know, and they have other places that are available, but, you know, the policing staff, you know, Huddersfield has. Wait, I can go on. There's other communities that don't. I'm not questioning the fact that we need safety within our community. I'm just questioning the fact of whether or not we have the right force for the right community. Very small in stature and road-wise. And whether or not that is the right way to look at this.
So I hear your concerns. The concerns are valid throughout all communities throughout Western Maine, even including my love of the town of Paris. And yours truly have asked that question in the past of the town of Paris. So it is your question and your conversation is not lost on me. What I will say though, to keep it real, that is a question that's not for tonight or not for FY25 at this point. It could be an FY26 question and conversation to be dealt with. But the budget that's in front of you tonight, the trains are already moving. And there's nothing, even if you wanted to, you couldn't do anything before now in July 1st of this year. It's too late. You have things in motion. We have a PD union contract. There are things that are in play. And so while I appreciate the conversation for another day, the question of the moment is this FY25 budget. If you don't want to vote for the police budget, then that's your privilege. But what I'm saying is, I want to answer
Vic, you bring up a
questions.
Very good question. I'm not going to vote for the police budget tonight. I can tell you that right now. I just think the expenditures are way too high year after year for the last 3 years. I understand increases in cost that were associated with an outrageous amount of, just inflation that occurred
Hold on.
in the last 2 years. But I would,
Hold on, hold your thought. Okay, Chief Goss is with us. Go ahead.
I would like to make, point out the fact, lost my thought.
Sorry.
No. When the train's rolling, we don't switch a track.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, again, that's a conversation at this point for another year. The question in front of you all tonight is, do you want to approve the police budget and all the other budgets as presented? Or do you want to change them? Or what is the conversation? But what I'm going to, in all questions, what I'm going to try to do is separate the longer term conversation from the conversation of the moment. And this is the conversation of the moment, this particular budget. So if you have any questions on this particular budget, more than happy to answer. sincerely.
Brandon Throp came back. You mentioned that they have a union contract,
Right.
and this community is part of that contract. They contract with the town of Mechanic Falls. Why isn't that union contract put up for a vote along with this budget?
Because that's not the process that was followed when this was created 2.5 years ago.
Just a thought. How would the people of this community feel about that?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
Let them vote. That's asking them.
Well, they vote in a way through representative government. These people here tonight, the councilors, are the representatives of the town. And 2.5 years ago, when we decided how we were going to address the creation of a new 3-year contract with the police department, they asked Lisa and I to sit down with Jeff and to work on the town's behalf with the union. And we did that. And we came up with a 3-year contract that the town approved through the council. So your charter. Again, the conversation, I don't want to, if you want to have a conversation, if there's enough energy between both tables to have a conversation, then a conversation can be had. It's your town. But that's different than tonight. You can say you want a conversation, that's fair play. But at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to we're not going to be able to address it tonight. What we're addressing is the specific budget.
I would like to add that at that time, when our police department was down quite a few men, we had overwhelming support from community and council to do what it took to keep a police department in this town. This town isn't the same as Poland. It has a downtown. It has businesses. You can't just say, oh, well, Minot has just county coverage. Minot doesn't have a downtown. They don't have banks and grocery stores and other
Lisa,
things.
not to cut you off, but my concern is not that we don't have police coverage and public safety coverage. I'm just saying that public safety has it's just taken off in the last 3 years. Far more than any other budget request that's in front of me right this evening.
If I may interject, Poland, for 3 officers to have full coverage is paying outrageous. The average starting pay for a sheriff's deputy is almost $37 an hour right now. The average starting pay for one of our guys, if I'm correct, is
Probably around 24,
20.
25.
yes.
Again, it's not about public safety. My concern and what I have is about the coverage that we have.
We have either
Poland has 8,000 people that live within its community.
we have
and
to
has
have
multiple
protection.
downtowns.
We have to have protection. We either have our own police department or we have the sheriff's department. If
Again,
they
Paula,
choose
Paula.
to take us on, they don't even have to choose
Hey,
us on.
Paula,
It was looked into very deeply and it was cheaper to continue with our own police department than it was to do the sheriff's department. What was Mitch's name? Berkowitz?
Hey, Paula,
Mr.
before you go
Berkowitz
any further,
Looked
I-
into it and the
don't
sheriff's
put words
department
in my
wouldn't
mouth.
even
I
answer
didn't
us.
say not to have a police department. You said that.
Okay, I'm
I
going to
said-
interject here. I'm going to bring it back to the table. I hear where you're coming from. I think you have a valid point. I think that you can choose to die on that hill, or you can go back to your community, because it was the community and the council who decided that. So that's where you have to start. Tonight is not the time to discuss what we do with that. Like I hear you, and you can vote against the police budget. That's your prerogative. But tonight we really need to focus on this budget and doing the job of the town business tonight. Yes.
So I would entertain any other questions concerning the budget review that you all have been through. Do you have any other questions, thoughts, or concerns?
I do. I'm going to stir a pot too. I'm quite concerned that Miss Lisa, with all of her knowledge and expertise, has been with us for how many years now, Miss Lisa?
It'll be 29 this May.
Okay. And a codes officer who's still in the process of learning, no matter how
I'm not
good he
getting
is,
I'm not getting into personnel matters.
is making more than
I'm
an
not getting
employee.
into personnel matters. And if you, it is your privilege to say what you want to say as a counselor. I would caution you that you're getting close to the line of personnel negotiations and that all of this was discussed in executive session and straw polled in executive session.
What I was going to ask is, how can we put Miss Lisa, I know it's set for this budget, but for next budget, what track do we need to get on to put her into a realm of the years of experience that she has?
You can do whatever you want to do. I don't want to stand in the way of that. What I'm trying to say is that these discussions have already taken place for FY 25 and they are in motion. And I think I don't want to be in a position to say things that I don't want to say. I would just hope that you all would honor the executive conversations that we've had in executive session concerning these kind of matters.
Well,
And I don't have a problem with discussing FY 26 on increasing anybody's pay. I'm
my,
all in favor of increasing pay.
my concern is one of the reasons why we lost Sarah, and Sarah,
That is, I don't want to get into that discussion.
okay.
That's personnel matter. I'm more than happy to discuss any of that in executive session. Okay? Seriously. Okay? Boy, I'm feeling like the bad guy over here. I really don't
Let's go
want to
back
be
to the agenda.
Yeah.
And the agenda for tonight was we've already reviewed these things. We've all looked at these numbers. The next step is, the next step is to entertain motions for these, correct?
Yeah, to answer any questions that you have about the budgets, thoughts or concerns that we can answer today.
About
And then
25.
assuming that both parties, the budget committee and the council, are ready to move on as history for the last 2 years, we are teed up tonight to actually go ahead and to vote out the budget, assuming you all want to. Okay?
Now, if I may ask another question, because there's been movement in the budget multiple times, which has potentially freed up maybe dollars that could potentially be put other areas, that's not renegotiable or reconsiderable?
Well, how do I say this? On one hand, possibly. On the other hand,
If money was freed up.
we
will
have
be there.
a traction for giving, if you're alluding to giving staff pay increases, there are others that I want to give pay increases to that haven't received pay increases other than COLAs. And I think that needs to be duly vetted and meted out. And I think at this point in time, it's a little unfair to signal out anybody for pluses or minuses when it comes to pay. And we get very close to personnel matters and negotiations. And so this is your town. You people do what you want to do. All I can do.
Okay, I'd like to say something, please. I'm not going to stir any pots. I think that this budget, while there's some line items that obviously increased, I think the fact that the new direction that we've taken is we're trying to get rid of debt so that we're not spending money on interest. We're trying to keep that money. Vic also negotiated the bank moved the money in the bank to more interest so that we're earning more money instead of spending it. So in my opinion, the budget has been we've looked at it, that we've considered our employees and how we need to keep them. So if we're going to keep this town running, these things are already in place, but this budget reflects hard work for the people who we've hired to do this job. Because we're volunteers. So we've hired people who know these numbers, who pay these bills, who see where this money goes, who spend this money for our town. So we have to respect that, the hard work that's gone into this to get us here tonight. And we have to do our duty to the town and do the business of the town here tonight with what we have in front of us.
Thank you.
I want to say one thing. Well, maybe a couple things, but I think it's obvious to anyone that there are going to be certain things in this budget you're not gonna like. But we've done our due diligence. I mean, there's things in here I don't really like, but it is what it is. It's the budget. It's one that works and it's reasonable. I think you got to take it as a whole. We have to give up some things to have other things. That's the way government is. We've really tried hard to keep the numbers down. There are places where I personally would like to see some slashes, but there's probably places I could maybe even go higher. But the reality is that most people are okay with this. People have been asked, like we've negotiated with contracts and with salaries, and people have agreed. I think it's reasonable. I think this budget is reasonable. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Down through this list of proposed versus last year's approved. Net change, I see some real positive gains that we've made on saving money in this budget, substantial numbers. Okay, and we really can't stop the current economic conditions of labor force, which is already demanding more wages on every front that you look at. Every employer is looking at a demand, or else people move on. They just move on. For 50 cents an hour, we'll lose people, and we don't need to be losing people. I think this has been a hard-fought budget. I'm looking at it very, very intently, and it's very reasonable that we're looking at only $112,000 differential from last year's proposal. And that doesn't mean that we won't have any net savings over the course of the year that will just solidify, our net loss of $112,000. Vic is doing a fine job of innovative work to try to come up with a lot of different things to save this town money. And it shows in all of these numbers. So I, for one, am happy with the numbers that I am seeing.
Thank you.
I would just add that I know we're voting on the budget as proposed tonight, and I have no issue with it. But if there is enough of a groundswell of concern regarding making sure employee salaries are competitive, maybe for the next budget process, that can be a stronger consideration. Review all the salaries. You had mentioned that there are some that you would favor considering an increase for. That's something I think the council can take a serious look at next year and do their best to, yes, you want to balance the budget, but you also want to make sure you maintain and retain experienced quality help that we do have in this town. And I don't think it hurts to periodically make an analysis between having a local police department versus the sheriff's service, but make sure that you're doing apples to apples and oranges to oranges, and make sure that you're not only looking at the costs of having a sheriff's service versus having your own department, but also the response time to dealing with situations versus sheriff versus having your own department and things of that. Take all the tangibles and put that together. And I think every now and then periodically it doesn't hurt. Because the issue will come up, because that is one of our biggest budget items, and it is periodically a concern. But I feel that a feasibility analysis of comparing the two types of services you can offer to the town maintaining public safety, but at the same time with costs in mind, and see what the true costs are and what the impacts are to the community, having your own department versus a sheriff's department. That's might be something for the next budget process, if the council deems that's appropriate, and if there is enough demand from the public to have something like that every now and then, just because everyone's concerned about their taxes and the impacts and so forth. It's just something I'm putting out there.
Yeah, no, in terms of the theory, if you will, of the conversation, you have me, both of you have me at hello. I think that when it comes to this, I said this when I was on the budget committee in Paris and as a select person in Paris, everything should be up for examination all the time. And trust me, it is. In this particular conversation, because I literally went through this in Paris, and I call it to sheriff or not to sheriff. When we went through this in Paris a couple of times, it's all very emotional. And there's a byproduct here that I think that we all need to appreciate, that maybe when I was going through this in Paris, because I was looking at it just based on numbers. This conversation is more about numbers. And I've, over the years and in my time here, have come to appreciate the following, and that's people. So whenever you start to have these types of conversations, you got to think about what you're advertising to the world. You're saying, world of policing, we may not be hiring any police officers in the future because we may be contracting this out. And what are you saying to your current staff members? You may not have a job a year from now. And so it becomes a very emotionally charged conversation. And I've lived both sides of it. Literally, I have. And that's why when I first came here, and Jeff, bless his soul, was the only officer, the only member of the Mechanic Falls Police Department, and he's working hard trying to build it. And the gentleman before me, Mitch Bergowitz, came in, had a conversation with council, and they agreed to increase pay substantially. And it worked for 0.5 seconds, because what happened was we quickly went from a staff of 1 to 6 for a cup of coffee. And then we had 2 or 3 leave us. And now we're replacing those. We just had another one leave us here within the last few weeks. And it's a frustrating thing for the police chief and the sergeant to try to continually build up this police force. And one of the stakes that helped them do that was the council creating a resolution saying that they want the town of Mechanic Falls to have its own police department. Now, that's not in perpetuity. Let's agree to that. But still, in that moment in time, it helped Jeff. And when he hired Paul, it helped Paul to bring others onto the police force. And just the conversation will have our current staff scattering to the winds quicker than you can say boo. Because as it is right now, for that cup of coffee, we were the cat's meow when it came to hourly page for police officers. We're now back at the bottom because life happens. Everybody else increased their pay. And so as we enter this new 3-year contract negotiation, do we want to go all the way to the top again? Honestly, I don't think so. There's going to be some other reason for staff to stay. But if there's this constant flag waving in, depending on which way the wind is blowing conversation to sheriff or not to sheriff, then it's not going to help create a long-term policing staff if in the end the town of Mechanic Falls wants to have its own police department.
You have to understand is just because we have a county sheriff's department does not mean that they have to patrol us. Where we have had an established police department for so many years, the last I knew, They didn't have to take us on if they chose not to. And as far as I know, there's been at least 2 times the council in the past, over the past 12 years, has approached the sheriff's department and they've replied, no, thank you.
So before we move on, Jeff, I think we owe it to you to say anything, if you want to say anything. You're all set?
Yeah, it's an extremely frugal budget. Negotiated pay raises through the union, I can't do anything about, nobody can do anything about, and I'm not saying that they're not good, they're excellent. The guys deserve everything and then some, but that their pay for this budget is nothing we can do about.
Agreed.
Mike Ward, the police chief of Oxford. I had a conversation with him right after we as the council raised McFall's pay, and they went, oh, thanks a lot. Now you've stirred the pot, but you're not going to be at the top very long. And we weren't. And the kid we just lost has not been out of the academy very long. And ones that have left, that's the same thing. We get them through the academy and then they're offering them $3, $5, $10 more an hour, and we're losing them. And we need a department.
Okay, back to the 25 budget.
Vic, don't take this the wrong way. You're doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
And I like the capital improvements, the way everything is going. And we're setting money aside so that we don't have to borrow money. So we don't pay to use the money. We have the money we use and we replace it every year. We're our own bank. It's excellent. I love everything about that. But you just need to keep things in control. And sometimes you have to do things that you really don't want to do. Our public safety is excellent. The question is, how excellent is it? What do we get for it? What's the tangible things that we see and receive for that? Everything else within this community, we understand what we get. Sewer, water. If you come to town hall, you get what you need. If you go to the library, you get what you need. You see your roads plowed. If we come to Vic and complain, he's got ears and listens and smiles. It's amazing.
So the thing,
But if you run a business, you need to see results and you need to see what those results are. I'm not, and Paul is talking about other things and she's putting words in my mouth again. I don't particularly care for it. I never said cut the police department. We'll make that clear. I just said the budget has increased dramatically over the last 3 years.
it has, and it has. And half, 2/3, 3/4, 9/10, pick a number of the reason why is because literally you've gone from a staff of 1 to a staff of 6. Okay. And we're sending people constantly to the academy. Now understand there is, in terms of this, this round robin thing, sending officers off to the academy and then they leave us. So remember, the policing world has a 5-year rule. I don't know what they call it. I'll call it a 5-year rule. So we lost a couple of fresh people from the academy. So the receiving towns, or in one case, the county, had to reimburse the town of Mechanic Falls to the tune, rough numbers, about $50,000 for each person. So the town of Mechanic Falls has some sort of backdoor recovery mechanism for being the training ground. And I've said this, look, we hire different positions all the time, and we have these conversations internally all the time. Pay cannot be the number one reason why anybody stays, including me. Because at the end of the day, Mechanic Falls will not be the top dollar payer, other than that for that quick moment in time. Survey after survey in 30, 40, 50 years of business experience, the number one thing that employees want is they want to feel appreciated. They want to feel valued. Number two is that they want to feel like they have a contribution. that there's a passion behind what they're doing. And then yes, pay is a bowling score and yes, pay is important. But what we need to continually do, regardless if it's a deputy town clerk or a police officer or a town manager, is that this town needs to constantly be looking for people that are going to try to stick.
I totally agree with that.
And so
Pay
on
has
that,
never been the top priority for people to stay within a job that they're in.
and so that's what the environment we're trying to create is a family environment, a team-oriented environment. And, but people are people. We all have our personal lives. People will come, people will go for various reasons. And with all of that said, unless there is another question in some different area, I do think this
Yeah,
board
I
was
would-
pretty well.
I would entertain some motions. So tell me how we would do this.
Well,
would-
basically, if both parties want, then traditionally we've led off with the budget committee
Mhm.
making a motion. What I suggest is we just start on the summary page like we have the last few years. We just we'll start with the boards and council budget and get a motion, second, and a vote from the budget committee, followed by the same with the town council. And we'll just go down budget by budget by budget. And I'll have a couple of things for us at the end that I'll also need approval on as well. Okay,
Okay, so is Walter on or no? Is he gonna be?
Andrea,
Just make a motion to,
accept as presented?
yes, I
If
make
you
that
wanna do-
motion right now, that
To-
we accept the budget as it's presented.
You can do that?
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
Versus going line by line.
Yes.
It will need a second from the budget committee. Or we can go budget by budget. So if that doesn't get a second, then it just dies on the floor. So I'm not hearing a second. So me playing referee here a little bit, we'll say, we'll move on. Mr. Chair, does that work for you? I think, yes, you are allowed to, yes, like Tarsha can, you can on as a budget committee officer, you're the chair, but yes, you have the privilege of firsting and seconding and voting and all of that. Yes.
I have no problem voting on the budget as a whole, but at the same time, if it seems to be more thorough to do it line by line.
Okay.
I don't want to buck any tradition or make sure that we're following point of order.
Then why don't we just do it budget by budget as we have been? Okay.
Where they don't have but three of them. They don't
They
have
ha-
a fourth.
They have three of them here. It's a committee of 5. There's a quorum right here.
But isn't our bylaws say that if they don't all vote unanimously, it automatically fails if it's less than,
They are a committee of 5. There are 3 here. Right, right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is now in your bailiwick.
For the sake of discussion, I will second your motion.
Okay, and so that way we're clear. Andrea's motion was to accept the budget as presented in whole. And you are seconding that motion? Okay, so you as chair now can entertain discussion.
The discussion would be if, we don't have a committee to vote and we vote as a committee right now, it doesn't entertain or pass to go to the council. What's the difference if we vote right now?
Well, my understanding is that if he seconded it, you guys, if it's unanimous, it's good. If it's not, then we're gonna do it line by line. So you could take the vote, and if you don't vote, it's not all of you, the end, we move on. We do it line by line.
But again, if it comes down to a line and they don't have a unanimous vote, then we can't vote on that budget.
Well, they can't vote on you guys can't. You'll just have to
Oh,
come back another time to vote on the budget before we have the public hearing.
Because it wouldn't sit when we.
Doesn't have to be presented from them to us. if they don't vote it in, it wouldn't be presented to us, would it?
Well, it's kind of a joint thing. So this is, so you guys are, the council is doing its own budget world at simultaneously as they are. Okay, so it's not like, it's not conditional that they approve it and then you approve what they approve. You both independently have your say, because on the budget warrant, it could say in theory, and in
Right.
Paris it has before, that the
Not
select
recommended.
board recommends a yes, but the budget committee recommends no. We, since I have been here, have been in unison, both budget committee and council recommend yes. And so, but
That answers my
in
question.
honoring the budget committee, I've tried to always begin there. But you guys, regardless of what they do, you guys can vote it out as an entire budget. You can vote it out line by line, independent of what they do. And if they haven't completed their work, they will need to come back and complete their work.
So say that I've already, it's my understanding that one of the committee members does not want to, there's a certain line item that he does not want to vote for. So that would probably defeat having a unanimous vote, because we don't have a unanimous vote among us. Then it's, the motion is not going to pass.
Yeah, well,
To vote on it as a whole.
I think that, yeah, I think that person would have to do some searching and see gum up the works, or,
Well, now, I don't want to put any pressure on anybody at the same time. If people have concerns about certain line items, then we should be voting on that thing as line item or
agreed. Agreed.
so I will withdraw my motion and vote on it. I would recommend that we just take,
Okay. All right. All right. So we'll go at the top. So Mr. Chairman of the Budget Committee, Tom, I'll entertain a motion on boards and council.
We accept the boards and council budget as it's written.
Yeah, in the amount of $13,569.
those in favor?
Thank you. Council?
Make a motion that we accept the budget as presented. Here you
They're
go.
getting buggy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
All right. And that was the entire budget, yes? Okay. Thank you. All right, back to Budget Committee. Legal Services.
Motion, we accept the legal services budget as it's written for 2024, 25.
In the amount of,
$12,000.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Okay, thank you. Municipal Complex.
Motion that we accept the municipal complex budget for 24-25 for $128,772 as written.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Are we just voting on budget side and the council voted on the first?
So they
one?
voted on the entire thing. They're done.
Okay, there we go.
Um, I think it would be respectful.
I raise a point of order. If we haven't, as a budget committee, voted on it and released it to the council, how can the council vote on it?
Because the council doesn't, because you're advisory only. You have no authoritative standing other than advisory. And your advisory, not necessarily to the council, your advisory to the citizens when they go to the June vote, and it has that line, council and budget committee recommend yes or no. That's your advisory.
It just doesn't make sense.
Your
Why do you need even us at this point to make any recommendations?
So if the budget committee decides that as a whole that it doesn't want to make any recommendations, that's perfectly fine with me. On the
Council has just
on the
done
town
that.
warrant, it will just say council recommends yes. And to what you voted so far, it will say budget committee recommends yes. And worst case scenario, if there's some sort of impasse on a budget or two along the way, then there's a budget impasse. On that particular budget, it will just say council recommends yes, and there's nothing there from the budget committee.
Ultimately, we're not even accepting the budget. We are approving it to send to the town. We don't set the budget, the town sets the budget. They're gonna
Yeah,
vote on each one.
I understand that.
We're just saying we recommend these items.
But the point of order is why are we even doing line by line?
Well, technically,
There's no,
Because that's how you guys decided to do it.
For me, the job, we're doing the business of the town, so we're looking this over, we're having the conversations. Not everyone is gonna agree, and I think everyone gets a vote, so you get a vote. It's just that it's, this is what we've decided to present, this is where we're at, so you get to vote no. And then that's your vote, that's where it's gonna go, and we just said, we accept this budget to go to the people are gonna say yay or nay, and then we're gonna have to do different work.
So asked and answered. So are we ready to move on to town clerks and
Oh,
elections?
there's a question.
Yeah, Andrew?
I make a motion that we now accept this as a whole instead of going line by line. They've already accepted it. Now you're gonna make us sit here and go line by line when it's,
isn't,
Oh, mic's off. Where we get some feedback there, huh? Yeah. That's why I'm deaf, 30 years of radio and that happening. So try it again.
okay. So yes, they've accepted it. And now we're gonna have to sit here and go line by line for a vote that really doesn't count because we've already made recommendations and done all the work. We can't change this. Now, we can change it next year. We get the process early enough, but this is the way it is. This is 24, 25. So
well, Andrea, my comment to that is, have the people voted on this budget?
no, that's what we're trying to get it to. We're trying to get it to
Then
the
this
people.
budget is not carved in stone.
Well,
This vote is to get it to the people so they can vote yea or nay line by line.
Well, let's get it there.
I think we're better served just going line by line and getting it done.
All right.
that way. Mr. Chairman, town clerk elections.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the town clerk elections budget for 24-25 for $122,486 as written.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Thank you. Administration.
Motion to accept the administration budget for 24-25 for $165,380 as written.
Your turn.
No,
I believe I'm not supposed to make.
Yeah, you can
Oh.
make motions. You can first, you can second, you can do it
I
all.
thought as chairman, it's not supposed to.
Yeah, in this setting, based upon our charter, yes, you can.
Okay. I'll second it. All those in favor?
Thank you.
I
You-
make a motion that we accept the utility budget for 24-25 for $160,930 as written.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Thank you.
a motion to accept the code enforcement planning budget of 64,500. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong number, $68,599 for the year 24-25 as written.
I'll second. All those in favor?
That does not pass. Next,
Code enforcement planning budget of 60, oh, sorry, I make a motion to accept the code enforcement planning budget of $68,599 for the year 24-25 as written.
that's the one that was just not
That's the one
approved.
we just did, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. I make a motion to accept the library budget of $41,290 for 24-25 as written.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I make a motion to accept social services welfare budget of $7,500 for 24-25 as written.
I'll second. All those in favor?
That's a no from you, Lou.
That's a no from me.
I make a motion to accept assessor's budget of $28,250 for the year 24-25 as written.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
I make a motion to accept the auditor's budget of $10,500 for the year 24-25 as written.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Thank you.
I make a motion to accept the contingency budget of $10,000 for the year 24-25 as written.
A second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
I make a motion to accept the debt services budget of $118,962 for the year 24-25 as written.
Oh, why don't you slide your microphone? Yeah, like that, a little bit further away from that speaker. Okay, yeah. So if you're not talking, no, but you're towards the speaker that way, and the speaker is what's picking it up. Okay. Debt service, thank you.
Make a motion that the budget for pensions and insurance of $532,273 for the year 24-25 be accepted as written.
Thank you.
I make a motion that the fire department budget for $182,900.
And this animal control.
Oh, sorry. I make a motion that animal control budget for $11,225 for the year 24-25 be accepted as written.
Second. All those in favor?
Thank you.
I make a motion that the fire department budget of $182,933 for the year 24-25 be accepted as written.
Okay, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
I make a motion that the police department budget for $553,649 for the year 24-25 be accepted as written.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Does not carry.
I make a motion that Public Works budget for $499,821 for the year 24-25 be accepted as written.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
I make a motion that the transfer station budget of $140,952 for the year 24-25 be accepted as written.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Now we drop down to county tax.
Is that on the new page? It was,
It's at the bottom of the summary page.
In the
In
dark
the
gray.
bottom paragraph, It's the second line down it's under general fund. It says county tax and the figure is 282,975.
Very good. I make a motion that the county tax budget of $282,975 for the year 24-25 be accepted as written.
Second that. All those in favor?
You have no choice. I mean,
I know I have no choice.
Okay. So I will give a little, once we're done here, I'll give a little what happens next. Okay, so that does not fly. Okay. So the next one would be the reserves budget at 505,000.
I make a motion that we accept the reserves budget for $505,000 for the year 24-25.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Thank you. And the next one is applied revenues. And we'll break it down in the warrant for revenue sharing, regular stuff and all of that. But the big number, the overall number is $1,587,070.
I make a motion that we accept the applied revenues budget of $1,587,070 for the year 24-25 as written.
I second that. All those in favor?
Thank you. And a little caveat that again, that's estimated. Okay. And then the last one, well, next to last one, applied fund balance that of 178,000 that we use from surplus, 178,000.
Okay. I make a motion that the applied fund balance of $178,000 for the year 24-25 be accepted as written.
Second that. All those in favor?
Thank you. Now for both parties, we have the famed LD1 question. And I'll read it to you as it will be on the warrant. Law, we to have it on the warrant. Shall the town vote to increase the D1 property tax levy limit in the event that the municipal budget approved will result in a tax commitment that is greater than the property levy limit? Last year, you recommend yes. I recommend both parties do yes again.
Can you break that down, please? What exactly does that mean?
So.
Good old English working terms.
All right. So somebody 20, 30 years ago came up with the concept of what is famously known as LD1 to limit to back then when it first started, I believe it was 2%. And then it graduated, augmented to be a formula calculation that takes into consideration the annual growth rate of the town and other growth factors from what we get a number from the state. And so it's a whole formula sheet that I have to do. I can't do it until like the ninth inning of the ball game because it's not available to do. And there's certain information, valuation numbers and different things that I need to figure out where all of this comes. As a matter of fact, I can't do it until after June 11th because I need to know what the town voted. And so basically it's a dog and pony show that helps to cap limits of increases to the municipal budget unless the town makes a conscious decision to say, yes, if it's, yes, we want to go above the limit, if it's above whatever the formula limit says. It's as plain in English as I can give you, and it's still convoluted, and I'm sorry. So
Have we ever exceeded the limit?
I don't know. Last year was the first year that we put it on since I've been here, okay? And so what I don't know this year is how the revaluation is going to affect this formula, okay? When you look at the budget, there should be no problem, right? But I can't look anybody square in the eye and tell you, because I can't do the formula until after the ball game. And so what this does is look at it this way. If the town goes and votes to all of these articles that you guys are approving tonight, this is basically the town has already spoken. And this is just an extra step, a cog in the wheels that says, based on some formula, if you exceed that, the town agrees to consciously exceed it. That's the best way that I can do it. Honestly, and I say this with love, you need to do it. You need to do it. Because what happens if on one hand, the town, especially in a referendum like you guys have here, goes and votes all these articles and it's 0.8% above whatever the limit is. If you don't vote to increase the limit, then basically you're going against the voice of the voter and you're forcing the machine to have to back up and refigure everything to fit under the formula if the answer is no. And so
No.
it's a convoluted dog and pony show that gets us nowhere. Oh, wait a minute. Let me throw in some grease just to keep this interesting. So let's say all of that is true. Worst case scenario, we operate on the current budget. Let's say we go to the town referendum and the town votes down the entire budget. Only Lou Goulet shows up and votes everything down. And so I'm picking. So, but in all seriousness, if they voted down, and this happens in some towns where they'll vote down large parts of the budget, then by state statute, you revert to the current budget until the new budget is finally passed. And so I am trying to do what we need to dutifully do to have it on there and to go through the dog and pony show. As a matter of fact, right now at the state legislature, somebody has presented legislation to do away with this dog and pony show, and I hope the hell it passes. But we need it for now anyways. And so please, trust me, you need to do this.
The reality is if the town votes this budget in, it doesn't matter what the percentage is. Like if they voted it, right? So
I understand the whole
Right.
the whole, everything.
if it wasn't put in, if we didn't put this question in, the reality is if that percentage was too high, we would have to have another referendum to get it to pass.
So because basically what this is
Or
looking
we'd
for,
have to do a
this will
different
be
budget.
on the warrant. All I'm looking for tonight is for the budget committee and the council to say, we recommend yes. And then everybody goes to vote on June 11th. And if everybody votes no, well, it creates a little bit of pain for Lisa and I.
Just another cog in the works.
All I'm
And-
saying,
And somebody got a special job.
all I'm saying.
Way back then.
And yes, and we might be okay anyways. I don't know. I think we should be, but I don't know what the growth formula is going to be when the state finally hands it down later this year. I don't know what our updated town valuation is going to be, and I don't know what the voters are going to approve. Hopefully they approve our budget as presented, but let's say they don't. So there's calculations I have to do before tax commitment comes to the council for this LD1 thing. And so if you sense some frustration and passion in me on this, it's because it's real. It's there. I think this is. Andrea,
And I make a motion that we vote yes,
recommend yes,
that we recommend yes for the
LD1.
LD1.
Oh, and after such a passionate reply, I have to second.
Thank you. All right, I'll need the council.
Motion that we put on the ballot LD1.
That
as
you recommend
required-
yes?
As recommended.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you. And did I miss anything? All right, so
I
now,
have one more question.
yeah,
Since everything is pretty well taken care of, correct?
right.
That tax bill that was presented where the people for over 65 and it would never raise again.
Right.
How much did the town get reimbursed for that?
Well, hopefully in the end, we'll get back a little bit better than $100,000. We've got part of that back. It's in front, I've been away, so I don't know where it is right now, but there's emergency
are-
legislation at the state level. And assuming the turned in the proper fashion, later this spring, we should receive the balance of the monies. And if there's any further update, obviously, I'm going to update the council in the world as I know the information to be.
Ms.
But
Lisa,
in
what
a
did we
bumper sticker
get?
fashion, that's the story.
Okay.
But just so you know, they struck that.
Oh, I know it's been turned down. It was,
Oh, but there
was a dream.
Well, it's in the works to do it again. They're gonna try to they didn't have the money to do it. They didn't realize how much it was gonna cost.
they'll never have the money to do it.
Miss
We actually
Lisa,
told
how
the
much,
state-
what percentage of what they owed us did we get?
About 57%.
Oh, so you're saying the state passed a tax on the town
Yeah, so
and we recouped and we lost by 43%?
So hopefully we get it back, but I want to address a more important matter. Now that all parties have done what they have done. Council, thank you very much. Budget Committee, thank you very much insofar as you've gone. You have a decision to make, I can't make, and they can't make for you. How do you wish us to proceed? You have approved all the budgets except for 1, 2, 3, 4. You have not approved the code enforcement, the social services, which is the GA, which by state law we have to do even if there's no budget. The police department and the county tax, which we have to pay regardless. It just comes from savings. If the town doesn't want to pay for it, you got to pay it. So the budget committee has a choice now, in my humble opinion, thinking on my feet, sitting down. One, you can walk away from tonight and on the town warrant on these particular articles, it will just simply say, council recommends yes, and no comment from the budget committee. Because right now you are not a yes or a no de facto. So do you want to come back and have another bite at the apple with perhaps a fourth and fifth member? Do you want to just let it go as budget committee, with no response on these budgets, particular line items, article warrants from the budget committee having no say? Or do you want the budget committee to have a say? It's up to you.
Consider any of your.
Oh, I could be talked into, I could be sweethearted into anything, but no, I probably would reconsider a couple of them. Just on the grounds that I shouldn't.
So then my question is still in play. I think the way that I see it is you got one of two choices. Either you can convene as a budget committee, another meeting on your own for these specific budgets. Or you can not convene another meeting, let the season go by. And again, on all the other warrant articles, it will say, as it says here, council and budget committee recommend yes. And on those ones that you did not recommend yes, it will simply say council recommends yes, and no response from the budget committee.
We do have another round of this discussion among the budget committee, and we have the extra members present. If it's not a unanimous decision with the decision.
Well,
change.
so as a committee of 5, if let's say there were 4 present
Mhm,
and the vote was 3-1, then the majority would rule, right?
mhm.
But as the others have said here tonight, and it's true, as a group of 3 on a committee of 5, you need all 3 affirmative to pass anything.
Mhm.
And so it is, in my mind, it's kind of like in neutral. It isn't like you said no, because I got 2 votes to support these articles. I just don't have enough to pass it. And so in my mind, it would just, like I said, the police budget would just say, council recommends yes.
For no, they'd have to vote no. They would have to have a unanimous vote no.
Yeah,
Just like they have to have. a
yeah, because right
unanimous
now
vote
it's,
yes.
it's neutral.
Right.
So either it can remain neutral, you're advisory, right? So
Mhm.
that's your role. So you can either say, hey, we tried and we have no advice on this. Or we'll try to reconvene and take another bite at the apple on these particular articles. All the other ones have already been voted, so I think that's legit. So it's really, unless somebody smarter than me has a better solution, I think those are your only two choices.
It's not gonna make any difference. The people are gonna speak either way, whether we vote for it or not, when they vote for it. It's just gonna say we had no opinion.
But here's the thing for you to think about. So if like on the police budget, it says council recommends yes, and all the other warrants, or most of them, it says budget, council and budget committee. Are you comfortable in them drawing the conclusion that the budget committee doesn't support these articles?
I honestly don't have a problem if there's some way that we can convene the entire budget committee and re-vote on these items. Just so we stand one way or another on whether we accept those items or not. I don't have a problem with that, but I would listen to comments from my other board members.
I would like to keep it the way it is and just go with our opinion not being on, rather than try to take another meeting. I don't know, it just seems like it was hard enough to get,
3 of us here, to get all 5 of us here, or just another body here.
So Cindy would have been here tonight, but she is sick. She's legitimately sick. And Walter is in Florida. He was going to try to join us on Zoom. Didn't happen. So,
All right.
and again, I mean, you as a budget committee, you have your own autonomy. So you can, it's really your call. And you can sleep on it. So in my perfect world, I was going to hold the joint budget committee meeting next Monday before the council meeting to save a night out for the counselors. But because we're in this slight purgatory, I think what we'll have to do, you'll have between now and the latter part of March to, as a committee, resolve this one way or the other. I don't think you have to decide tonight. You can if you want, but you'll have, let's say, between now and March 20th or so to decide if you want to reconvene, and if so, how, when, and where. I'll try to be a helpmate in that if you want to reconvene. If you decide not to, then we will officially hold the joint public hearing. It will have to be at our April 1st meeting. And you will have the public hearing on April 1st. And then I'll have the council vote on the budget warrant. I've essentially got it pretty much prepared, but we'll go through it fine tooth and comb just to make sure. So it's really, I can give you that much runway in order for me to keep the trains moving the way that I need to.
I was going to say, how does that affect your ability to keep going forward? How much does it slow it down?
The only thing that this slows me down on was I intended on having the joint public hearing next Monday and then have the month of March to finalize it's pretty much finalized, but to really get it all teed up for you, for the council on April 1st. This will just, assuming that they do reconvene at some point and eventually vote one way or another on the articles in question, then I will include that information on the warrant, and that will become part of the public hearing. We could still hold the public hearing next Monday, but I don't think it's fair because there's unfinished business one way or the other over here.
And when they have their next meeting, should the council be there?
Say again, with the council?
If they choose to
Oh.
not settle this tonight and to have another meeting,
Nope,
does the council have to be
nope,
there?
no. Council has done its work. Thank you. The budget committee has mostly done its work with this one caveat question: to call it a day and let it go as is, or to try to reconvene and hash it out and come up with a yes or a no. Because again, right now it's in neutral, the way I see it.
I would prefer to be definitive one way or another. as long as it's not going to follow up the process that much, I would probably favor reconvening.
Okay.
And going back over these items with a full, if possible, with a full committee. If this, would it be possible that, I don't know what parameters you have, how much time there has to be to set up another meeting? If it's like 2 weeks, I don't have a problem meeting. in
As
2
long
weeks.
as I give at least 5 days notice, we're okay.
All right. If, can you contact?
I'll try to put feelers out. Let me ask you a question. Let's wave a couple of magic wands. Your magic wand is chairman.
Mhm.
Do you have any particular meeting opportunities? It could be in the afternoon. I mean, it doesn't have to be in the evening. Hell, it could be in the morning if you could get everybody together, right? It's whatever works for you as a committee. Do you have any preference? You want to try to do it sometime next week, the week after? If we want the whole committee,
The whole committee, wouldn't that be based too on how Cindy's health is?
yeah. So if she's sick, it's going to be at least a few days, right? You know, so, and I don't know how long Walter's in Florida for. So why don't I do this?
So maybe you should do, if you can research and
Yeah.
kind of get a better idea of where the other two members are, when they would be actually
Okay.
back available.
Do any of the three of you have any, and I know you got school board, do you have any, I just can't do this particular day or time that you guys are thinking? I mean, is there any X's that I can put out there for right now?
As long as it can be before March 19th, I would be all right with it. After that, I might not be available for a while due to surgery.
Okay. For March.
But I would say probably in the afternoon, given everybody usually has things to do, I would say 5:30, 6 o'clock on some day that
Okay.
would suit everybody.
Yeah, if it had gone totally smooth, I would have had the public hearing next Monday night. And the reason why that's important is because I got to put out your agenda tomorrow, first thing Wednesday, and
Why do you have to have the approval? You can still go to the public.
well, but the thing is that if we have the public hearing and these budgets are in neutral, and then you guys meet post-public hearing and decide to either vote yes or no on those budgets, that's not the latest and greatest information. A public hearing is about reporting out to the public your work. Your work is still in progress until you guys say it's not.
Work at the committee, been done.
I'm not hearing that it's done. I'm hearing that it needs either definitively you three make a vote tonight and say we're done, or it's still in play, one or the other.
I feel you're working very hard.
I feel I'm working way too freaking hard over here.
Something that is not that easy.
I'm just trying to get all the trains moving and get things across the finish line. You have unfinished business.
If somebody on the board wants to entertain a motion to end this tonight, we can vote on it.
I make a motion.
I second.
Mr. Chairman, you can write it in.
No, I understand.
I don't think any discussion.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Yeah, I'm voting it.
So so it's still open. So then with that, I will continue on trying to combine everybody's schedule to a 5-ish type of meeting, if possible. Even if Walter has to join us on Zoom or Cindy or somebody, Paula.
Where we were supposed to have this meeting before the meeting on Monday, would that be, and it's already been talked about over the public, would that be when they might be able to meet if the other two members are available to do what they need to do?
One more member, they can go, they can get a 3 in one or.
Yeah,
Whatever you do, make sure you have meeting area that's logging up all the contingent that's gonna come. Statements from me today did not help. People will be here. I guarantee it.
You know, I am
One way or
working.
the other.
So here's the thing. I try my best. I am working way too hard on this. I am. I'm accepting way more responsibility in this than I need to. This is a budget committee decision. What I'm getting from the budget committee is that you want to try to have another meeting because there's no consensus not to have another meeting. I am saying to you that I am willing to try to make that happen, but I'm not here to carry all of your water. Respectfully.
I'm asking you to.
Can I entertain the motion to adjourn?
Yes, for the council's sake, yes. I don't know if you have any more. So for the council, when we present the warrant to you on April 1st, it has all the budget numbers that we talked about tonight. It has the LD, has everything in here. You're going to vote the warrant on April 1st. This is the official document that will then get transcribed.
Public hearing on Monday night.
So based on, no, because we need more runway.
Yeah. Okay.
Because honestly, I don't know. I'll try to put together another meeting. And hopefully it works.
Sound very confident.
Well, I think honestly, if all five of you are here, my guess is it would probably, the articles that weren't approved tonight would be approved, would be my guess. But I don't have a crystal ball and I can't make de facto decisions like that, right? So if there's energy to try to get a yes on the budget, council and budget committee recommends yes, then I think it behooves you to try to have another meeting if you want energy in that direction. Right. Okay, but I will try over the next day, 2, 3, to try to piece something together for you. I'll work with you. I'll reach out to the others. And before I said anything, I'll reach out to you and you and I can make sure that we're solid. Okay.
If I may ask a question, what if it comes to where you can't get them all together, then what happens? Nothing
Let's
about
say
the
that,
budget's been.
let's say the clock runs out on those articles. It's just council recommends yes.
Make a motion that council adjourn.
Thank you, council. Budget committee all set? Okay. Thank you all three of you. Thank you.